Kia ora koutou. This video here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to have a look at the specifics with regards to the routes, the approximate distances and times that we've kind of given it, and also the contingency plan for escape routes should things happen along the way. So day one, we are down here in the bottom, in the left hand corner. We're going to make our way up through. It's all basically uphill from here. We're going to make our way up, and it's probably going to take us about an hour and a half to 2 hours to break the bush line out into the Alpine. Now, as I explained in the earlier video, this one's a bit more of a, you get a bit more of a better visual on what this open stuff looks like. And so exposure, we're looking at about an hour across the tops here, hour and a half across the tops to reach this point where we drop off down into the river. Now this section here is pretty steep, that goes down into the river. So steep straight from the get-go, about 7 AM Monday morning we're heading uphill. Take a while to get there. Once we're here, it's kind of undulating tussock land. Pretty open, really easy walking. It's mostly flat with a few little blips up and down. Once we get here, it's it's tighten the pack and it's tighten the shoelaces, and we're heading downhill all the way down this ridge, and that's going to be a steep one. Now if you can see, I don't know if you remember from the earlier videos, but this ridge here actually links up. You can see the track here, and it links up with our day 4, which is this white line in the back, and it avoids the river completely. Now that's one of the worst case scenarios should we not be able to drop down in the river. Let's just say we get down the river and the river is too high, it's in flood, we're not going anywhere, we're not going to cross it at all. If it's murky, if we can't see, we're not crossing, and we may actually end up camping down there by the river to assess if it's been a heavy rain prior to camp, and the river's actually flushing itself out. We'll stay the night down there and just see if it's passable the next day. But we'll make that call. But anything discoloured, any discoloured water, we will not be crossing. There's a few factors that we need to listen out for. So obviously moving rocks means quite strong current, and that sort of stuff is not, it's not wise to even consider crossing. So we'll sit there. Should the river be, we'll monitor it for about a half an hour. If we see that it's making good progress, we may potentially stay the night, or, well, let's just say we stay there the first night anyway, regardless of whether we're crossing or not, and the next day, if we're not crossing the river, we'll make our way back up here, okay, and that's our contingency. So that's emergency exit number 1. We're going to make our way up, and then we'll actually walk back along this ridge here and link up with the day 3 stretch, which is Umukarikari. Okay, let's just say we make it across there, and we, again, it's starting to seem a bit hairy. We can pull back and cross at the location we crossed, where we deemed passable the first time, and come back up and out. From that point onward, between here and our campsite designated for day 1, where our emergency exit is this ridge here. It's a bit more easier going, and linking back up with that ridge track here. Okay, now day 2, here's camp 1. Again, we're going to change our location from the Thunderbolt across to the left hand side facing upstream, and should we stay there the night and the river comes up as we are asleep, we can just up the ridge, walk along here and head out, or camp somewhere else, but we're out of the river system itself, and that just completely eliminates it. And at any stage, if we get to a place that is impassable, we can basically go up either side, and all of these ridges link back up with the main ridges, with the main ridge lines, which we have clear passageway either side, left hand side, right hand side. It will require a bit of bush bashing, because there are no tracks but yeah, there are bluffs in these little in these ravine style areas, but we'll stick to the ridges that will allow us to get out and out into the open. Now, day 2, we're looking at about 4 to 6 hours. Now, this one here is a trudge straight up the river, right up the middle. There's maybe 20 to 30 odd river crossings. As we head upstream, the river actually does get shallower. It starts to peter out and it gets narrower, but the water depth gets shallower. And so we're going to look at kind of making our way up towards the Waipakehi campground, which will be here at Camp 2. There's a hut there. And so one of the things that we're trying to get our kids to do is to understand and apply principles of the Environmental Care Code where the kids are able to, manage how they behave. So things like just unnecessary damage of the ngahere. If they need to go to the toilet, what do they do with it? Do they cover it? How far from the water source? We don't want to be letting that stuff get into the river system as well for other people and other users. Caring for each other, rubbish, all that sort of stuff. So kind of keeping our footprint to a minimum in this beautiful space here. So that's day number 2. That's basically the big drag right up the middle of the river system. Emergency exit plan. Here we have a number. These are the ones I've identified, but we can actually walk up any of these ridges depending on whichever side we are on. The Thunderbolt is probably going to be the biggest gut buster. We're probably going to lose a few souls on that trip there because that's a tough walk. But to get up and out, it's an option. It's an option. This one here is a bit more of a gradual climb out. And this one here. But again, these are just ones we've identified just using this particular map. But we can take any of these ridges up and out and get ourselves out. Then we do have the necessary tools to aid in getting us out of this river system, should we need to. But chances are low, but we're not writing those chances off. Okay. Day 3 from the hut down here, campsite 2. We walk back out, and again we're kind of breaking out into that alpine. You can see where the trees stop growing, and it's all just the hardy kind of alpine herbs and grasses that can tolerate the really cold conditions that grow up in these areas. Once we're up there, we are going to be exposed to the wind, to the rain. I'm okay with rain and wind together, but like I said in the earlier video, the one thing that I'm not prepared to put the kids through is a big long snow trudge, because it's a very specialist type of mountaineering that our students are not experienced or will be prepared for. So keeping in regular comms with Kath and Hemi with weather reports. We'll leave the websites for them to do our checks for us while we are there, because the unpredictable nature of nature is that anything can happen, and it always changes, and so snow, a flurry can come through, a whiteout can come through, and if you're spread across, say, 200-300 meters with your group along an open top and a whiteout comes through, those are things that we need to monitor. And so monitoring the snow for me would probably be our number one risk when out in the open. Walking in the rain is fine, walking in the wind is fine. It's that snow element that we need to be extremely careful of, and we'll be monitoring that a good month in advance and the week of leading up to. And should, like I said earlier, should we encounter a bit more snow on the forecast, we will pull the pin on this trip. We wanted to go ahead, but we also have to play this one smart as well. So, and we'll keep whānau updated and Paumarumaru and our Tumuaki up to date with these decisions and these judgments as we in that week leading up to the trip itself. And the final day, we have from the summit here, where we will be camping for Camp 3. It's all downhill, 3 hours down to the Waikoko campground, where we will spend Thursday night relaxing. There's a nice big communal fireplace down there, and it's quite a nice space. And wait for our ride Friday before lunchtime at some stage, or around lunchtime, sorry. So apart from that, I think, sorry, just touching, the last thing I want to share with you for this section is day 4 and day 3. So this is day 3 coming up from the camp. Should the weather be extremely miserable, we may potentially push past, because it's quite a short day, we may potentially push past Camp 3, which is here in this clip on this slide, and spend another couple of hours and try and push either camp just below the bush line here, but I'm guessing the kids will probably want to carry on. I mean, it's 6 to 7 hours. It's a long day, but it's, it's doable, and we can just push all the way downhill till we get to this location here, the campground, where we can just chill out. In which case, if that is the scenario that happens, we'll be pulling the pin a day early. We'll just be coming home a day early, that's all. Okay, so we will be combining day 3 and 4 into the one trip, into the one leg. So I think, yeah, basically there is no contingency for this, but it's basically down and out. There is no, what if it's this that way, and what if it's this that way? No, it's all downhill. It's straight out. And we'll be monitoring track conditions using the DOC website. So all of the routes that we'll be taking that are DOC managed, we will be monitoring their conditions. DOC have pretty up-to-date reports on the conditions of their tracks and their trails, and we will be monitoring the river as we are in the river system, and the weather as we go. So beyond that, if you have any other questions, please feel free to message me. I'm happy to phone call, happy to pop in or come into Kura, and we can go over a whole bunch of other bits and pieces. So thank you for your attention, and look forward to hearing back from you guys. Ka pai. Ka kite.